Hello. Today we will discuss an interesting idea that exists in historical science, that the Benedictine order became the main engine of the restoration of Europe after the fall of the Roman Empire. Is this true? Or did these monks play a slightly different role in history? At the beginning of the Middle Ages, Europe was going through a long period of transformation. After the collapse of the Western Roman Empire, various Germanic and other tribes migrated across its former territories. Cities and trade declined, and ancient culture and the educational system were significantly reduced. It seemed that the Dark Ages had arrived, but at the same time, a process of renewal began. Its source is considered to be Benedictine monasticism. However, long before the appearance of the Benedictines, other monks were engaged in the restoration of Europe. Saint Benedict of Nursia generalized and developed their experience, creating his famous rule. It is believed that the novelty of Saint Benedict's rule was in its emphasis on work. However, in practice, it also played an important role in other Western monastic traditions, such as the Augustinians and the Celtic monks. The first chapter of the Irish Columban Rule introduces the great principle of obedience, one of the manifestations of which was constant hard work. The slightest deviation from the rule entailed corporal punishment or severe fasting. Like other Western monastic traditions, the Benedictine rule emphasized the idea of the self-sufficiency of an individual monastery and its independence from the outside world. Initially, Saint Benedict sought to avoid worldly knowledge that could distract the monk. The writer Cassiodorus, who established a monastery on his family estate, supplemented the duties of monks with scientific studies, which was accepted by the Benedictines. Don't forget to subscribe. Write comments, put likes. At the beginning of its existence, the Benedictine rule was popular mainly in Italy, where Saint Benedict founded several monasteries, including the famous monastery in Monte Cassino. From the end of the 6th century, thanks to the efforts of Pope Gregory the Great, the Benedictine rule began to spread beyond Italy. An important role in this was played by the mission of Benedictine monks sent by Pope Gregory the Great, led by Saint Augustine, who went to England in 597. Before this, Christianization among the Anglo-Saxons was actively carried out by Celtic missionaries. With the support of local kings, the Benedictine rule took hold in the south of England with unusually quick success. After the Synod of Whitby, Celtic monasteries in the north also adopted the Benedictine rule. At the same time, Irish monks continued to preserve the traditions of the Celtic rule of St. Columbanus and initially became an important part of the missionary work of the Benedictine order, actively spreading Christianity on the continent. Missionaries such as Willibrord played a key role in this process. With the support of the papacy, the Benedictines continued to spread their rule among the existing monasteries on the continent. For example, in the south of France, the monastery of Lérins, a long-standing center of Christianity that had educated many outstanding church figures, became the scene of conflict. In 660, while trying to implement the rule of Saint Benedict, the monk Agulf, who was later canonized, was killed there. Among the Celtic monasteries on the continent, beginning with the Abbey of Luxeuil in Burgundy, a mixed rule was established, combining the Benedictine tradition with the Celtic rule of Saint Columbanus. Purely Benedictine monasteries arose only in cases where local bishops prescribed exclusively the rule of Benedict. On the initiative of Saint Boniface, the Benedictine rule was legally enshrined in the Frankish kingdom in 742. In Italy itself, the order declined, and the relics of Saint Benedict were transferred to France. Resistance to the forced introduction of the rule of Benedict was offered by some Benedictine monks of Celtic origin, such as Saint Virgil in Bavaria. Nevertheless, the Celtic rule was supplanted in many large abbeys originally founded by immigrants from Ireland, for example in Switzerland, in the monastery of Saint Gallen. In the Carolingian Empire, the unification of monasticism on the basis of the Benedictine rule became an important part of domestic policy. The Benedictine Benedict of Anian was granted general authority over all monasteries in the empire by Emperor Louis the Pious. At the councils of Aachen in 816 to 819, he ordered all monasteries to follow the Benedictine rule. All deviations from the uniform rule and customs consistent with the spirit of the Benedictine tradition were to be eradicated. This largely departed from the original idea of Saint Benedict of Nursia, who allowed for the existence of a variety of traditions. However, the degree of unification after the Aachen canons was limited. It was more of a declaration of intent. Under the Carolingians, the Benedictine monasteries became the largest landowners and acquired a number of privileges, judicial and tax immunity. They were freed from the authority of local lords and bishops. Their monasteries dominated education, science and book production. Monasteries founded long before theirs became Benedictine, such as Marmoutier, founded in the 4th century by Martin of Tours. In the 9th century, Benedictinism became the only form of monastic life in all of Western Europe, with the exception of Scotland, Wales and Ireland, where the Celtic rule still prevailed for another century or two. Iona did not become Benedictine until 1203. The Celtic monastery of Bobbio in northern Italy gradually adopted the Benedictine rule and was fully adopted in 1448. The only monastic rule that survived the takeover was that of St. Augustine. Benedictine monasticism spread to Scandinavia after Christianity was adopted there, but it had less influence in the Catholic countries of the East. The rule of Benedict failed to prevent the disintegration of monasticism. The Benedictines outsourced manual labor to dependent peasants, departing from their original principles. The collapse of the Carolingian Empire weakened their support and led to the decline of the monasteries. However, the Benedictines played a key role in the new revival. The monks of Fleury and St. Denis contributed to the establishment of the Capetian dynasty. Reform movements such as the Cluny Reformation were based on the spirit of the Benedictine rule. But they were not independent and self-sufficient as before, but a strict hierarchy of monasteries was created. Based on the facts presented, you can draw your own conclusions about the role of the Benedictines in the restoration of Europe. Was their rule unique, and how did their commitment to work and learning play a role in strengthening the order compared to the patronage of popes and emperors? You can support the channel by making a donation. Links to my pages on Patreon, Privat24 and PayPal can be found in the description under the video. Your support is very important.